what I was saying was I wanted to talk a little bit about the show Nemesis and how it's an excellent display of these interpersonal relationships between men and women, right? And oh, hey, Tiara. And so, you have okay. So there's so many different things that I could talk about in this show. Um, Again, because I am the mistress of divorce, I discuss all things relationship between men and women, and post relationship, which is my main work with women, right? Women who have left long-term relationships or marriages, and helping them to reestablish identity. So it's identity restoration. Also, reestablish that inner authority, and we utilize the dark feminine energy in order to do that. So it's rooted in shadow work. But I have different methods and things that we get into inside the container. Also, I will be teaching a private class on the dark feminine activation code, which is I would say, the change that I made. I like to call it an upgrade, um, but because it's some things that I'm going to be, some things that I've added, right? So it's the Dark Feminine Activation Code, and that is the name of the container. That is the 4-week container. However, I will be teaching on the different elements that are, how can I put it? So the framework of the dark feminine activation code, basically, I will be teaching a private class on it. So it's not so much as talking about the container and what goes on in the container. Obviously, I'm not going to teach about that, but I'm going to be teaching on when I say that women are source code. Everything begins with us, and everything that has to do with life, genetics. Um, Everything, motherhood, everything is the feminine. The nature is feminine, right? So this is why I say that we are source code, and that's what I get into in the okay, now I was saying my internet connection is stable. Can you guys see me and hear me? Because I promise you, it's like I can't win here with this internet. Are you guys seeing me? Can you let me know in the chat? Put like a yes or no, or a one that you can see me, a one that you can see and hear me fine, and a two that you can't. Please let me know in the chat. Hey Kyla. Um but I'm just gonna keep talking until I see some responses. But basically, the private class is going to be on the dark feminine activation code, and it's going to get into, like I was just saying before, how women, we are source code. And so I'm going to dive into that in the private class that I'm going to be teaching. Most likely, it'll be sometime this month. I'm still working on some things. So okay, great. So I'm still working on some things as far as like the class and stuff like that. I'm working on the outline, the things I want to address. But it's going to be really, really great. And if you're not a subscriber already, definitely subscribe. So this is for the people of the replay, because Kyla, I think you're subscribed to my publication, and Tiara, obviously, I know you are because you're a client. So yeah, so definitely subscribe, so that way you can stay up to date on when the class is going to start. Also, link in my bio for all of my offers. Everything lives at my stand store. Still offering free 45-minute coaching sessions for women, to basically just kind of see where you are on your journey, and to see like how the one-on-one container can help you. The reconstruction project. Okay. So basically, so everything, like I said, link is in my bio. I have the free 45-minute coaching session. Also, if you missed the masterclass I did a few weeks ago called "The Woman Underneath," you can also find that on my stand store. And then all of my other offers are there. So if you haven't visited, please do. Link is in the bio, and go check me out. Also, if you're not following me on TikTok and you're not following me on Facebook, all those links are in the bio. So now let's get to Nemesis. Okay, so like I said before, it's a really great representation of the interpersonal relationships that take place between men and women, and then all of the people around them that are in their orbit, right? And so, again, as I said before, since I am the mistress of divorce, I discuss all things divorce and things. So basically post divorce and what's going on in that marriage before you divorce, right? All of the elements and things that have taken place specifically for women, because my work is for women and with women. I think that men should definitely have that type of work, but I don't get into that because my work is women, right? So, in Nemesis, you have these four main characters and the people that orbit them, right? So you have Isaiah, who's a cop for LAPD, and his wife, Dr. Candace Stiles. And then you have Coltrane Wilder, who would be considered the villain, but everything is perception, right? And then his wife, Ebony. Now, the people who orbit them is Ebony's sister, Charlie. And here we go again when internet connection is unstable. Okay, and so then you have her sister Charlie, and then with Candace and Isaiah, you have Isaiah's father, right? And then Isaiah and Candace, they have a son together, right? They're married, have a son, right? So it's really interesting because Nemesis, obviously Isaiah and Coltrane are each other's nemesis. But I would even venture to say that Isaiah's father is also one of his nemesis, right? Now, the interesting thing is also with Isaiah, another person that's orbiting him is detective, or I can't remember if she's a detective because he's a lieutenant. So I think she's a detective because I think she's right under him. I'm not sure. But we'll just say Detective Cruz, right? His female partner. And then we also have the captain, who was more of like a father figure mentor for Isaiah coming up, when he's having issues with his father went to jail. So basically that's like the setup. Okay, so and then you have Coltrane Wilder, who he's a career criminal, right? His career is basically high stake robberies and stuff like that. So he has amassed a fortune doing this, right? And his wife, Ebony, she was more like his partner in crime, right? So they show you that at the beginning of the show. Then, as we find out that Ebony, she got pregnant, she had a miscarriage, and things changed for her. She didn't really want to participate in the goings on of what her husband is doing anymore. I think that what they're kind of telling us is that Ebony and her sister were already in that business because her sister is she's like the one that sets up everything. She's like the head, like the boss chick, right? I think that Ebony and Charlie's father was like in that business, and Charlie just kind of took over after the father died, right? And Coltrane Wilder's father was a career criminal as well. I think he died in prison. So you have Coltrane and Ebony both coming from the same world, right? You have Isaiah and Candace. They come from two different worlds. Candace has she has a I believe she's a doctor of psychology, psychiatrist or whatever, right? So she has an established practice. She comes from like this upper class, middle class black family, right? I don't know what her parents do, but they do something. They're upwardly mobile, which you would call the black bourgeoisie of LA or whatever, right? From Baldwin Hills. Okay. So that's her background. Okay. And she met Isaiah in college. They went to USC. But Isaiah is from like the hood. He's like the hood dude from South Central. Trauma, just all kind of trauma issues with his father. His father used to be a gangster, just all this stuff. Just Isaiah just got a lot of stuff, right? And so they met in him and Candace met in college, but Candace was actually and she was most likely supposed to be with this other guy, Malik, who's like the district of attorney. Her and Malik come from the same background, same type of family structure, right? So her parents were really hoping that she would be with him, but she did what a lot of women do. She chose the thug because that's what a lot of women do. And this is what's gonna get. I'm gonna get to the point, but a lot of women are stuck in daughtership, and so they want the bad boys, they want the psychopaths, they want the dudes who have all the trauma and all this stuff going on. Instead of her choosing Malik, where the person that she has more in common with as far as like their backgrounds and what would make more sense, she goes for the thug, right? So, and I also look at that as excuse me, as an act of rebellion, because like I said, most women are stuck in daughtership. And so they like to do things to rebel against. So I looked at that as her being rebellious. Well, my parents think that I should go with this guy, and it makes more sense. But I'm going to be rebellious. I'm going to go get the thug. Okay, and I'm just calling Isaiah thug because he's sort of like he's kind of like thug a little bit if you watch the show, right? Not taking anything away from him or anything like that. Like, I think he genuinely wants to be a good husband and a good father, but he has so much trauma and so much anger and everything that he just cannot seem to get himself together. And just when you think he's making changes, he flips. And this is because, you know me, I'm always going to go into the shadow. This is because he refuses to do the work on himself. So everybody else around him is basically regulating his emotions. When I was watching this and I was looking at all of the things that Candace was doing, excuse me, his wife, I was like, all she's doing is regulating his emotions. If Candace isn't doing it, his partner is doing it, right? Because he refuses to do that himself. So he's sort of like a hothead. He flies off the deep end. He goes out and just does shit. And it's like, what are you doing? And so, and then like the relationship he has with his father, um it's almost like he has this simultaneous sort of like hate love relationship with his father. He pays his father's bills and stuff, but then he goes over, he it's like he goes over to his father's house just so he can have a confrontation with him, right? So Isaiah has a lot going on, and he refuses to dig deep and do the work on himself. I think with Coltrane was sort of forcing him into some type of shadow work, right? Because they're two sides of two different, what's the expression? Different sides of the same coin or something. That's what they are. They are each other's nemesis. They are each other's um like their alter ego. So you have Coltrane, who is this career criminal, went into the same business that his father was in, has amassed a fortune, took it, right, and did all of these legit things with his money. Because this is the story that we always see, right? Godfather, Sugar Hill, all of these things. This is what happens, right? I always say that criminals actually make really great businessmen, but that's another day. So, um, so like I said, he amassed a fortune for himself. He had a real estate company. He's doing all these things. So all of the things that he was able to do to make his money legit. So that way you can only see him as like this stand-up guy. So he was an ex criminal as well. He spent time in prison. And so he presents himself now. His persona out of prison now is like, oh, he's the young black male who turned his life around, right? And so that's the image he carries, okay? And he does all of these things in the community and all of these things, and it's not an act. Like, you can tell that he genuinely cares, right? So we always want to think that because he's the so-called villain, that he's just this, just cold and just mean and just hates everyone. And it's not even the case. Like, his family really means a lot to him. His wife, and they had a miscarriage, and so it really means a lot to him. But he's another one that wants to do right, and when I say wants to do right, he actually likes that work that you have to like it in order to keep doing it. But then he's like, I need to get out. It's time for me to stop this because Ebony, she wants us to get out, and she really wants to be a family and all of these things, right? So the interesting thing is, when I'm looking at the dynamic between Candace and Isaiah, it's so funny. When I was watching it, I was like, her nervous system has to be completely fried just dealing with him, right? And so, I'm looking at her, and I'm just like, what I was thinking, I was like, why she just don't file for divorce? Because y'all know me, that's where I go. If you're completely miserable in a marriage, just get out. I'm sorry, just get out. But she's doing like most women. She wants to make it work, and that's my husband, and we're a family, and blah 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 blah. And so I was like, okay, the part of the show where he is like just going ham on looking for Coltrane, and he just doing all this wild cop shit, right? Out there playing cops and robbers, while his wife is at home just trying to figure out, what she's gonna do as far as like her marriage, right? And then the son, he's like hanging out with the grandfather, like I said, who's an ex-criminal. He wants to have a relationship with his grandfather. Son starts being rebellious. It's just a lot going on. So, oh hey Brown Sugar, I'm still waiting on you to I'm still waiting on you to book your session. You don't have to mess with you every time you come in here. Let me see. I think it's because many women grow up in a strict household, forces them to always select the opposite of what their parents want, often leading them to bad boys. Oh yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. I mean, there's different elements that come along with that, but it's like you have to, this is why I always say that women should not be getting into these heavy, emotionally charged relationships when they're that young. Your prefrontal cortex isn't even fully developed, so why are you doing that? So it's like, fine to date them in college or whatever, and you have your time in college and you're doing your thing, but once you leave, you got to go get serious about life. And the last thing you should be doing is getting with this bad boy. I mean, it's like, she had to know that he comes with a lot. It's not like they got married and all of a sudden he comes with a lot. She knew he came with a lot, but she chose him anyway. And this is the thing that women do. And you don't even have to be young to do that. Women are in their 30s and their 40s doing this, getting with dudes that they know aren't good for them. That's like there's like this whole thing of women who are, building relationships with dudes that are in prison. Right? This is like a thing. And so this is why I would say that women, they will see red flags. They'll see that this dude, okay, he got all this going on. He got all these baby mamas. He has a temper. He flies off the handle. But I'm going to stay. Because women always want to be like Barbara the Builder, and they think that they can change him. Well, if we get married, he'll change. Well, if we have children, he'll change. This is what women do. So Candace is not, that's very typical of her, as far as like her behavior. That's very typical of a lot of women. I get the whole rebellious thing. We go through that phase when we're very young, where we want to rebel against our parents. We all do that. I think that's actually a part of our development when we're young. But to make a life altering decision like marrying this person and then having children with them, I mean, come on. Let's think this through. Right? Let's move past being rebellious and think it through. Well, they say when you get older, it's time to put away childish things. Right. This is what I say. You don't even need to be doing that until that prefrontal cortex is fully developed. So when you look at um what was I talking, oh, so Ebony, and so I mean not Ebony, Candace, and her relationship with her husband. So I thought the scene was real interesting when this was a point where he was just going ham, right? Like I said, and everything had gotten it just got a little too crazy. So she took their son and she was like, we're gonna go stay at my parents' house. So they're at the parents' house, and Isaiah, he is just out. He just out there. He in the streets, like I said, playing cops and robbers. He ain't texted her, called her, or nothing. And so she's busy constantly calling him and texting him. He's not responding. And so her mother is like, I'm just basic. And it was so funny when her mother said it, because I was literally thinking it at the moment. She was like, what you need to be doing is looking for a great divorce attorney. I was like, see, that's what I'm talking about. Because it's like, how long you gonna do this? And so she was like, you're sitting here like a high school girl waiting for her boyfriend to call. Like, what are you doing? And so this again takes me right back to women being in daughtership. The way women are with boys when they're in high school, they continue that same behavior when they become 25, 35, 40 years old. They continue that same behavior. Right? And like I said, he out here playing cops and robbers, and she just, oh my God, and she's texting and calling, and it's just like, so I was just like, okay, this is such a great example of these interpersonal relationships between men and women, right? So now you have Ebony. Now the thing that was irritating me about her is her naivete, right? Now, she was her husband's partner in crime. She knows the business. She obviously grew up around this. They're, like I said, I think their father was some type of criminal as well. And her sister, Charlie, was actually the voice of reason for her. And there was a point where they were getting close. Coltrane was getting close to getting caught, and so Charlie was like, "Okay, well, I bought you this house," and Ebony's like, "Well, I'm not going anywhere. And basically, I'm standing by my man," type thing, right? And so she's like, "Okay, well, what are you going to do when he gets caught? Because he's going to get caught." Then what are you going to do? And she really didn't know what to say. So Charlie was like, that's why I bought you that house. So when he does get caught, and you can go lay low and figure out what to do with yourself, because again, she's pregnant. She had a miscarriage and she's pregnant again. This also goes back to when I talk about how women keep bringing children here under unfavorable conditions. Your husband is a criminal. The optics of it looks nice on the outside. The opulence and the aesthetic and everything looks really good. But the inner workings of it is the underworld shit. Why are you having children, and why would you want to bring a child into that? You're never going to feel safe. It's going to affect how how you bring up your children. I mean, we can watch The Godfather and all of these movies, and there is an element to like, oh, they're able to have children, and nobody's going to mess with the Corleone family, blah blah blah. Okay, that's all fine and well, but is that still a conditions you want to bring children into? I mean, we saw on The Godfather a couple of times, a couple of shootouts, right? And they had to gather the family and take them somewhere safe. I mean, is that really the type of environment you want to bring your children into? So when I'm watching this, I'm like, the last thing she should be doing is getting pregnant right now. If at the very least, wait until you guys are out. Don't do it now. Things are too hot for you to want to have a baby, right? So this is when I say with Ebony, it's like there's an aspect of her that she has this naivete. Again, daughtership. So she has Coltrane and she has her sister. Those are the two. Her sister is her voice of reason. Coltrane is her husband. He wants her to be safe and happy and all of these things, right? But he's out there, playing what's a thing for people who, Isaiah's playing cops and robbers. Coltrane is playing I don't know. I guess he's the robber, so he's playing cops and robbers too, right? So he's out there doing that, and Charlie is like, okay, you haven't, the same thing, you haven't even heard from him, and you over here stressing and worrying and talking about my husband, and I'm gonna stay, and I'm gonna, and she was like, he out there just doing whatever. What if he gets caught? Then what you gonna do? And so there was a scene where they were supposed to get on this plane and get out. She told him, you better be here by 12 o'clock or we're leaving. And so there's this whole dialogue between her and Charlie, and she's like, well, I found out, basically told I found out that the baby that I miscarried, you went ahead and consented to them actually going through with because I guess it's a thing called a DNC, right? So that's what she went ahead and consented to, because Ebony was unconscious, so she couldn't make the decision. And Coltrane was nowhere around. This is what she was trying to tell her. You was going through this, and your husband wasn't even anywhere around. So what else was I supposed to do but to consent to it? And because I did it, your ass is still standing here alive, right? And so it's like she had to constantly be the voice of reason, because Ebony was so naive and so emotional. It's like she's not thinking clearly, right? And so I thought it was really interesting, because every time Charlie kept saying to her, well, what are you going to do? I'm waiting Coltrane, and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And Charlie's just like, and this is women, y'all, this is women. The caught up in the fairy tale, and no matter what he does, I'm going to stand by my man. And look, I'm not saying don't be in a relationship where the two of you are going to make things work or whatever. But I'm saying in these types of situations, even if you're going to stay, don't be delusional. That's the whole point. Don't be delusional about it. You want to stay, and you want to stay in that, know the price that you're paying, right? Don't be delusional about it. Just know that, yeah, he could get caught. And when it ended up happening, he got caught, right? The good thing, her sister bought that house for her. Now, she didn't even have to go use it, but she did buy it. And like I said, dude, he got caught. So at least she would have had somewhere to go so she could lay low and take care of herself and her baby. Because like I said, she's pregnant. So I found this to be very interesting, like I said, because it really gave a really great example of how so many women show up in these relationships with men, and how the men show up in these relationships with women. Now, we look at Isaiah, right? And once he was exonerated, once they found out that he actually was telling the truth and Coltrane Wilder was behind everything, he's back running out playing cops and robbers. They doing high speed chases. It's just all this craziness. And in the meantime, Candace, she starts cozying up to her ex, who's the district attorney, who's also helping Isaiah, right? Because they're all in that inner circle right there. She ends up cozying up to him, and she ends up at his house. I don't know if they had, can you say sex on here? Because I just said it. I don't know if they did that or not, but, you know, she shared, intimate moments with him. And I'm just thinking, when I'm watching this, like, this is what women do. So it's like, okay, my husband is out here. He's not paying me any attention. He's not responding to me. He's not doing anything that I want him to do. Then I have this other man on the side who I probably, way in the back of my conscious mind, I think she's always carrying this in the back of her mind, that I probably should just got with him. But I'm so busy trying to be rebellious, and I want to go get with Isaiah with all the shit that comes along with him. And so, excuse me. So she's over here cozying up to her ex. Again, these are the things that I'm talking about with women in these relationships. They want men to show up a certain way. And the men are showing them that I'm going to do exactly what I want to do. I know you want me to do this, and you don't want me to act this particular way, and you want me to show up this way, but I'm going to do what I want to do. And this is what Isaiah is showing her. I'm going to do what I want, right? It's giving very much narcissism, right? Like his father. What's his father name? Nightmare? Raving narcissist, right? He ends up getting killed. Oh, y'all. Am I giving too many spoilers? I just realized that. I hope some of y'all done seen the show, because if not, I'm sorry, y'all. Y'all just gonna have to go watch it and take the information I gave you. Maybe you can Jedi mind trick yourself to thinking I didn't tell you didn't come to this live, because I don't know. You're gonna get some spoilers. Um so but yeah, it, like I said before, it gives a really great display of it. And I like to see, it's like all of these different dynamics of women characters in the show. So you have Candace, you have Ebony, you have Charlie. So you have Ebony, who's like the naive one, right? And then you have Candace, who's not necessarily naive, but it's really kind of hard to, because even with Ebony, by her being her husband's partner in crime, there was a point in the show where we thought, oh, look at Ebony, okay, she flexing, but then she flipped. She went right back into that, you know, that infantile, I don't know, naivete, whatever. It's like she went right back to it. And then you have Candace, who is, I wouldn't say necessarily, she does display some aspects of naivete. She does. She really does. But they're not making really good decisions. Okay. You don't go cozying up to your ex because your husband is not paying you any attention. And then with Ebony, having a baby is this is not good. These are not favorable conditions. Like, why are you doing this? So, and then you have Charlie, who I said I really really like, who is Ebony's voice of reason. I thought it was very interesting how, when Ebony basically didn't get on the plane with Charlie, and Charlie was like, "That's it. I'm done. Don't call me back, little sister." Right. But then, of course, she came to her sister's aid, at the end, and because Ebony, I can't remember. I think something happened. She was pregnant. I can't remember why she was passed out at the hospital. I can't remember what happened there. But anyway, Charlie, Coltrane called her, and And basically Charlie came through and came to her sister's aid or whatever. So she has these two people. She has her husband and she has her sister. And honestly, if she didn't have those two people, I don't know what Ebony would do. So I looked at her sister and her husband both as sort of like her handlers, right? And then with Candace, um, I don't know. It's, like I said, it's a very, like the I don't know. It's to me, she does sort of have a little bit of a naivete. Has anyone in the chat, have you guys even seen the show yet? This someone's real life, by the way. Oh my God. She was likely doing everything to keep the image. Oh my gosh. I was dating one guy and I smoked. Oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah, see? And exactly right. Like there are people who are actually in these types of situations. And that's what I was thinking when I was watching it. And that's why I was like, again, I was looking at Candace and I was like, all the stuff that she keeps enduring with him, I was like, her nervous system has to be fried. And then like they have, and then they were in therapy, and so Isaiah was so caught up in what he wants to do that even when he gets to the event that Candace was hosting, I think she was hosting, or some event she was doing, some charitable event thing. And even when he got there, he was trying to figure out a way not to be there. And I'm like, this dude is so wrapped up, and he can say it's work, but it's not work. He's wrapped up in himself. Everything is about him. And I remember Candace even made a statement. She said he's acting out at home. Now, usually when we hear someone talking about somebody acting out, we're usually talking about children, right? And this is why I was saying, like, he's out here playing cops and robbers, and he has no, this dude refuses to regulate his emotions. And, and it's like he just does all this stuff, and then everybody's just scrambling, trying to figure out, how to fix it. And like I said, try to regulate his emotions. That's what everybody's doing. Everybody in his orbit, that's what they do because he won't do it himself. And this is why I talk about these relationships between men and women. If men don't do that work on themselves, if they don't tame that beast that's inside of them, those are the results. The women around them end up having to regulate their emotions for them, right? And like kind of like walk on eggshells, because that was another thing with him. It was like little things would just set him off. He would get so easily triggered. And I'm just like, why would you marry somebody like this? Why? Because y'all know what I always say, ladies. Y'all know I always say women outsource their shadow to men. Because why would you stay with him? Why would you continue? Like, you knew he was a hothead when you was in college. It's not like you married him and then you found out. He's always been like this. I think her parents even alluded to that. He's always been like this. But see, it's like you don't see it because it's under the guise of him being a good guy. Oh, he's a cop and he wants to take down the bad guys and and the drug dealers, because we get a glimpse of him at the beginning where he goes and rescues this daughter of a Mexican crime lord. I forgot the name, Alvarez or something. And he ends up being in his good graces, and so he's like, if you ever need me to do anything for you, right, I'll do it because you rescued my daughter. So it's like he wants to portray himself as being one way, but then he's another way. He even his own shadow, like he refuses to tap into that. And that's what Coltrane was doing. Coltrane was sort of, to me, kind of represented Isaiah's shadow, because Coltrane even said to him, "You're a killer just like I am." And when he said that, Isaiah was kind of shook about it, because he's probably in his head like, "What are you talking about? I've never killed anybody." Well, if you're a police, especially for LAPD, they're notorious for killing, like, they're notorious for shoot first and ask questions later. And it ain't just the white racist cops who do that. The black ones do it too. So, and so, you have that element. And that's like a major element of the show. Him, obviously, because he's trying to catch a criminal, but even just the element and everything about the LAPD and all of that, it's like a major, that in and of itself is a major character. in the show, right? So it's so many things working and so many, all these moving parts just dealing with Isaiah alone. And then the son, he starts rebelling, right? And so now this is, me, I'm always talking about mothers and their sons. And there was a part where I can't remember if it was one of them cop dudes, lieutenant, captain, whatever, detective, whatever, they were questioning, wanted to ask the son a question, and Candace immediately wanted to intervene. And I'm just like, hold on. He let him speak for himself. Like, stop that. To me, that was kind of like a little element of the boy mom shit. Like, leave him, let him, he's a young man. He can answer the question. As long as you stand right there, you make sure he knows that you're there. Let him answer the question. So all these things, like I said, all these moving parts, y'all. And if you haven't seen it, definitely go watch it. And if you haven't seen it, you'll probably want to watch it after this live. Because it's really good. And you'll even start to see, your own, you'll see things for yourself, pick up on some things, right? But it was really interesting. And then watching the dynamic even between Ebony and Candace as friends, right? And you know to find out the once Candace realized who Coltrane was, and that was the one that her husband was after. It was really interesting to see how the dynamic changed between the two of them, and how Ebony was so quick. And this is her husband, don't get me wrong, so I get it. But it was almost kind of like an example of how women throw each other that throw each other under the bus for a man. But I mean, that's her husband, right? So of course she's gonna take her husband's side, or like, I get it, right? But it was just funny to me because her husband basically told her to sort of manipulate Candace in order to get her to do certain things, so that way Isaiah, once he finds out, he'll be so focused on what Candace is doing that he won't, it'll kind of like fuck with his head a little bit. So then Coltrane's able to do what he has to do. So I really love this show. It dives so deep into the manipulation and dark psychology and just all of these things, right? Um, the the relationship with Isaiah and his father. I mean, the toxicity of that, and then the son really wanting to know what happened, and Isaiah's like, "Oh, I'm not telling you," blah blah blah. And I'm just like, why do y'all do that? Like, why do parents do that? Why do parents like to keep information from their children? I mean, the fact that your son is asking you, if your child is asking you about this thing specifically, then there must be some part of them that's ready to hear the truth. So why do parents do that? Like, why do they keep information? And the crazy thing is, he needs to talk to his son about it, because the dysfunction between him and his father is very much seeping into the relationship he has with his wife, and is in the relationship he has with his son. It's in the house. You have to talk to your son about this, or else he's gonna do what? He's gonna go rebel, which is exactly what he did. He ran off to go hang out with his grandfather and all the little thugs and stuff over there, right? So it's just really, really, again, this is a really good show, and it gets into the really good elements of keeping, withholding information from those that you love, and how that shit come back and bite you in the ass. I mean, it's really, really good. It's really good. I don't know if they're doing a season two. Um, they probably don't need to. I know some people are like, oh, well, they resolved everything, but I don't know. Let's see. Even a man's friend can tell you who he is. Absolutely. With someone's, and I thought it was interesting. Another element too that we get into when we say how men, when they co-sign each other's behavior. Like, he told the grandfather was talking to the son, and he was like, he had said something to him, I can't remember, but the thing that stood out was that he said, oh yeah, I won't, I don't snitch, I don't say anything, I don't do blah blah, all this stuff, right? And so I was like, okay, this is that same type of thing where, I was like, so if you find out your son violated this girl that he likes, you're not gonna say nothing. these are the things that I'll be thinking about when I'm watching, when I'm watching these dialogues in these shows, dialogues between men or women or men and women. I think about all of these things and how art imitates life. So when we see women behaving like this on these shows and we see men behaving like this, is art imitates life. This is how men and women behave, right? And this is how they show up in these relationships with each other if you're not doing the work on yourself, right? And that's why I would say with men, you have to do the work. With women, of course, you have to do the work, but with Isaiah specifically, because he refuses to do the work on himself, who refuses to tame that beast in him, everybody else around him has to suffer. It was a very good, another good example of Coltrane. It was at the point where he knew he was about to get caught. Excuse me, and he wanted to just get to Ebony so they could just go and be happy and all this stuff, right? And but it was, I think, one of the robberies. I forgot what happened, but he got in the car and he was sitting in the car by himself and he just sort of raged out for a little bit. And I said, that's that beast when I was watching it. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. But the good thing is, I feel like he understood that about himself. And that's why he raged out in the car instead of doing it at home and acting a damn fool. And of course, Isaiah, this is what he does. He rages out in front of everybody. He be raging out at work, right? No, like I said, no emotional regulation whatsoever. So imagine, like you said, Brown Sugar, this is somebody's life. Imagine dealing with a man like that. And that's what I said. Her nervous system has to be completely fried. And her mom was like, you need to be looking for a divorce attorney. And I was thinking this, I was like, why she just don't file for divorce? Like, and it's, again, and it's not taken away from Isaiah being a good dude. Like, yeah, he is, but this dude he got too much trauma. He got, like I said, no emotional regulation, just like, is out here playing cops and robbers and no governing on his behavior. When I was watching, I was like, this dude is wild. And it's like everybody around him just be like, they just like, I think there's scenes where everybody's just like, they just don't even know what to say. They're just speechless. Cause he's a hothead. Even his partner was like, I don't even know you anymore. I feel like him chasing after Coltrane he was chasing after himself. That's why I said I really think that there was an element of shadow work going on there, but he didn't know that that's what that was. Coltrane was his shadow. So, but yeah, y'all. I hope y'all enjoyed my little commentary on Nemesis. I think I'm gonna do more of these. I got another show. Oh, you know what? I want to do one on what show was that? I was talking about I wanted to do a commentary on it, and now I can't remember what it is. I'm gonna have to go back because I think I have it in my notes. But I like doing these. I'm gonna do more of these. I'm gonna do these commentaries on Tuesday. So, but anyway, ladies, Wednesday I go live again. But when I do Tuesdays, it's a little bit different. Wednesday is more of like teaching. So I'm gonna be going live again. I go live every Wednesday. So definitely come through, share, tell people, all that good stuff. If you're on my a subscriber, which I know that you guys are on here, so this is for the ones who come for the replay. If you're not replayers, if you're not subscribed, subscribe. And so I have my private class coming up, as I mentioned earlier, at the beginning of this live. I talked about the private class I'm going to be teaching on the Dark Feminine Activation Code. Also, if you haven't booked your free 45-minute coaching session, please do so. Link is in the bio. Everything's in the bio. My stand store, everything lives at stand store. Everything's there. So you want to book your session. Also, if you missed the masterclass I did a couple of weeks ago, The Woman Underneath, that's also on my stand store. If you go on there and you sign up for the it's a nervous system regulation authority installation. I'm sorry. You go on there, you pull that down, go ahead and download that. It's really great to help you, get started with regulating your nervous system. It's an audio installation. You get on there, you sign up for that, you get on my email list, and then, you'll get updated on when the class is going to start, the private class is going to start, and just updated on everything. So go ahead and visit my store and do that. And I think that's it. And I will see y'all tomorrow when I go live again at 3 p.m. PST, Pacific Standard Time. Okay. All right. See y'all later.